Hi guys, so my name is Marcus Taylor. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Trade Socio, and so I'm going to be talking about how you can attract, convert and retain more traders to your brokerage using analytics and automation. So I've broken this talk up into 4 different parts. First of all, we're going to be talking about strategy and what brokers can learn from military strategists to understand how to outthink the competition, defeat the competition, and acquire more traders. We're then going to move from strategy to tactics. So we're going to be talking about marketing automation and how you can, what marketing automation is and how you can use it to send the right message to the right traders at the right time. We're then going to move on to big data and analytics and discuss how you can unlock the data that's running through your trading service and use that as a competitive advantage. And then finally, we're going to touch on social trading and how you can use social trading to better understand your traders and to pull marketing insights from that data. So as I mentioned, we're going to kick off with strategies. Just by a quick show of hands, is anyone here familiar with the book, The Art of War? Okay, a couple of people. And anyone familiar with John Boyd? Or the fighter pilot who changed the art of war? Okay, so both John Boyd and Sun Tzu, the author of Art of War, they're both military strategists. Sun Tzu was an ancient Chinese military strategist from over 2,000 years ago, and he's widely considered, the Art of War is widely considered to be one of the best books on strategic thinking and military strategy. John Boyd, also a military strategist, a little bit more recent. He was a fighter pilot who fought in the Korean War. And many of his concepts are used by master chess players, organizations, and armies around the world. Now, despite coming from completely different cultural backgrounds and completely different periods in history, they both agreed on one thing, which is the value and the competitive advantage of information, and how gathering and acting on information in a smart way can provide a huge competitive advantage. Sun Tzu in The Art of War says, "Know the enemy and know yourself. In 100 battles, you will never be in peril." Knowing implies information. Knowing your enemy requires information on what they're doing. Knowing yourself requires objective information, data on what it is that you're doing. John Boyd is perhaps best known for a concept called the OODA loop. Now, the OODA loop was used to design some of the best fighter planes in the world. It's also used by a lot of master chess players. So OODA loop stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. And the theory is that in a competition, so in any competitive environment, whether it's a war, a game of chess, or competing in a market space, whoever can move through this loop at the fastest rate will ultimately win. Is anyone here familiar with the lean startup? A couple of people. So you might recognize this. The lean startup, a lot of the methodologies in that are actually based on John Boyd's OODA loop. So you might be wondering, why am I talking about military strategy? What's all this stuff got to do with marketing a brokerage? So a lot of these concepts, they're very, very applicable to a lot of scenarios. So let's take lead generation, for example. How can you attract more leads, more traders to your brokerage using this concept, the OODA loop? So first of all, you'd want to observe what you're currently doing. What is your brokerage doing to gather more leads? So at this stage, you wouldn't want to make any decisions or act on that data. You're just observing what's happening. And then we move on to orienting. So kind of changing your trajectory so that you're doing focused on more of the right things. So asking what's working and what's not working. And then step 3 would be to decide. So based on that data, what should you do? What should you stop doing, and what should you perhaps start doing? And then finally, it's then time to act. So to set up those campaigns based on those insights. And then once those campaigns are running, they will then generate data that allow you to go back to step one and repeat through the process. And the faster you can go through that loop, the faster your lead generation, your acquisition efforts will improve. So over time, you'll notice two things. You'll have more traders signing up, and your cost per acquisition will go down. The reason for this is because every time you go through that loop, you'll find more of what's working and more of what's not working. And so it's only natural over time that you'll stop doing less of this. You'll stop doing the things that are not as effective, and you'll start doing more of the things that improve your acquisition efforts. So over time, you'll have more traders signing up, and CPAs will go down. So applying this to trader retention and activation, we can go through the same process again. So first of all, we would observe what are you currently doing to increase retention? What are you doing to convert your demo accounts to live? And then we can ask what seems to be working. So what is it that your most loyal traders have in common? What seems to be converting your demo accounts to live? And then once you have that information, you can then decide how could you improve that? What could you start doing to perhaps increase retention or increase those activation rates? And then finally, we can set up the campaigns that will, based on those hypotheses. And then again, we go through the whole loop as fast as possible. So the purpose for doing this, using this kind of model to improve activation, acquisition, retention, is that each time you go through that loop, you're kind of, it's almost like if we were to represent your brokerage's growth on a graph, let's say, for example, your brokerage's growth is represented by the red line in the middle. What you're kind of doing is each time you optimize a part of your marketing, whether it's acquisition, retention, or any part of it, it's almost like you're going in and bending it. And so you're able to then optimize your marketing and optimize your marketing at a faster rate. So you go from being the red line to the green line, and then to the purple line, and then to the blue line. So you're kind of bending that growth curve. So moving now on to tactics. So how can you specifically do this sort of stuff? So I want to start with marketing automation. This is an area that I'm really, really passionate about, and I think provides a lot of opportunities in this industry. So marketing automation, the way I like to think about it is it's kind of email marketing on steroids. If you imagine using email marketing, but having a huge amount of CRM data so that you can send specific emails to different traders all at different times, you move away from this kind of newsletter model where you're sending all of your traders the same stuff to a scenario where you're sending, you might send 1,000 emails a day, but there are 1,000 different emails, all being sent at different times to different traders. And I'll explain how this works in a moment. So in terms of what marketing automation looks like, this is an example of a really, really basic marketing automation sequence. So marketing automation, it works kind of like a flow chart. You're sort of building a sequence of emails, SMS messages, or different forms of communication over time that are automatically sent to the traders at the right time. So there are 4 things that every automation sequence will have. You have a trigger, which is the thing that will start the automation sequence. So in this case, when a contact purchases a product, this sequence would start. We then have delays, which is any time between any 2 steps. You have conditional statements, which is saying, for example, here we have, does the contact match the following condition, has not clicked any link in this email campaign. So if a condition is true, you do one thing. If it's false, you do another, something else. And then you have your actions. Most marketing automation is focused around email, so triggering email to be sent out to a trader. But a lot of the automation tools, you can trigger SMS messages. There's some tools that actually enable you to automate sending handwritten notes, like postcards to your customers, by sending this information via an API to a service where people handwrite the note using that information and then post it out to your customers. So obviously, in terms of what you can automate, you can really automate anything that you can boil down to a process, which in marketing is virtually everything. So as an example of what you could do, you could, for example, let's say you've got a French trader who deposits more than $1,000 and has just made his, let's take a demo account. So let's say someone signs up for a demo account and they win their first trade. You could create an automation sequence that the moment that they win their first trade, that time is very important, because that moment when a demo trader wins his first trade is the most likely, the time where he's most likely to upgrade his account to live. And so if you can trigger an email or a message to be sent to that trader at that optimal time, you have the highest likelihood of inviting him to upgrade to live. You have the highest likelihood of actually converting him to a live account. So you can increase your demo to live conversion rates. You could do things like automatically sending traders a bonus on their birthday. You could use it internally to notify your sales team of any trader that is likely to leave your brokerage. So, for example, if you have a very active trader who suddenly becomes inactive, or if a trader has several failed login attempts, you can use all of these triggers to send targeted messages to your traders at these perfectly timed moments. And there's many, many more examples of how you could use this. Those are just a couple of examples. So obviously, to do this, you need the right tool for the job. There's a lot of really cool marketing automation tools out there. At TradeSocio, we've actually built our own marketing automation platform into the broker admin section, which is really, really cool, because it means that we can use the social trading platform to take insights like when someone wins their first trade or is copied by a user, and then we can send automation. We use automation to send emails or post updates in the newsfeed at those perfectly timed moments. So here's just an example of the marketing automation platform in our backend. So you can see kind of how this works. You would say, if the trader type is beginner and the number of positive trades is more than one, so a beginner wins his first trade, then we can send him an email saying, congratulations, you've won your first trade. Would you be interested in upgrading to live? So it's really about kind of getting that timing right with your communication. And what's really quite interesting about marketing automation is it becomes increasingly valuable over time as you have more and more rules set up. So, if you've been using automation for a year or so, you might have hundreds of these different automation rules all built up and ready. So you get to a point where you log in it and it will look something like this. You'll have all of these different rules that will be triggered, possibly several times a day. For example, when a trader wins his first trade, when a trader deposits $10,000 and then loses 30% of his balance, when he's copied by another trader, or when a high-value trader hasn't traded in 10 more days. You have all these little kind of triggers that you can then you're then triggering the emails on the back of them. So moving on to big data and analytics. So broker, you have a huge amount of data running through your trading servers. And a lot of that can be used as a competitive advantage. The challenge is, how do you make sense of that data? Like the sheer amount of amazing kind of trader psychology insights and marketing insights that is, are currently locked up in your trading server. There's so much that could be done to kind of actually take that data and turn it into actionable insights. So that's kind of where big data and things like predictive analytics come in. So to just kind of explain this, not all data, not all analytics are equal. Some are more valuable than others. And I think this graph kind of shows how the maturity of analytics, as it increases, it becomes more valuable. So on the far left-hand side, the least mature form of data analytics is just having raw data. So it's like if someone just sent you an Excel spreadsheet with tens of thousands of lines of data in it. Although it might have some useful things in there, it's not that valuable because it would take so much time and effort to interpret that data and turn it into insights. As we move along, we get to things like standard reports. So this is things like Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is what I'd refer to as descriptive analytics. it tells you what has happened. And then as a human, you then have to interpret that data and decide what to do with those numbers, or what might happen next. As we move along this scale, there's a real tipping point when you get to predictive analytics. Because predictive analytics, so it's one of these buzzwords that is used quite a lot, but not many people truly understand what it is or why it's valuable. It's actually quite simple. Predictive analytics is simply using historical data to predict the most likely outcome in the future. In fact, it's very similar to how our brains work. If someone were to tell you to walk down a dark alley late at night, your brain would use all the historical information that you know about dark alleys at night to then predict that that's probably not a good idea. So predictive analytics kind of works in the same sort of way. It's gathering all of that historical data and then turning it into a prediction about the future. So how this would work for a brokerage, for example, predictive analytics would analyze all of your trading data and might understand, for example, that French traders, perhaps when they deposit more than $5,000 and then lose more than 20% of their balance in one day, have a 80% likelihood of leaving your brokerage or churning. And so it then predicts that there's an 80% likelihood that this trader is going to leave your brokerage within the next 7 days. So now that it's predicted the future, you as a broker can use that insight to do something about it. And you've now got 7 days to actually try and retain that client so that they don't leave your brokerage. So it gives you a kind of a window where you can actually act on that prediction about the future. And then the pinnacle of analytics is when you get to something called prescriptive analytics, which is in the same way that predictive analytics predicts what's going to happen next. Prescriptive analytics then tells you what to do about it. So it might say, for example, that this French trader who has an 81% likelihood of leaving your brokerage in the next 7 days, you should send this email template to them because this email template has been proven to reduce the likelihood of this type of trader from churning by 70%. So you can get that likelihood that trader is going to leave from 80% down to 10%. So that's kind of you can't really get better than that when it comes to analytics. That's predicting the future and then automatically doing something about it is kind of as far ahead as analytics will go. So as I mentioned, the purpose of big data and analytics is to help you make sense of all of that data running through your trading servers. And so TradeSocio, we've built spent a lot of time actually building these kind of analytics tools to help at a macro view kind of understand what is actually happening with your traders, to understand their trading behavior, as well as understand who they are, and to kind of provide these sort of insights to make it really easy to act on. So how does this improve activation and retention? Well, let's go back to this example. So let's say you've got a list of your traders. We have here Virginia and Newton. So Virginia has predictive analytics has told us that she has a 0.2% likelihood of churning, leaving the brokerage within the next 7 days. So or 2 weeks. So we don't need to worry too much about Virginia. Newton, on the other hand, for whatever reason, has an 81.4% likelihood of leaving within the next 2 weeks. So that's predictive analytics at work. It's given us those numbers. And then we can take that insight and use marketing automation to do something about it. So we can say, if the trader's country equals France, and the number of profitable trades is less than 1, the account age is more than 30 days, number of trades is more than 10. So if he's made more than 10 trades and hasn't made any profitable trades, which might be why he's likely to churn, we can wait 20 minutes and only send this to a segment of our traders that have deposited more than $1,000. And then you can create those automation sequences to not only prevent this specific trader from churning and leaving, but any future traders that have the same criteria or the same reason for leaving as this one. So as I mentioned earlier, over time you build up all these different rules so that whenever a trader is likely to leave or or stay as a demo account, you have all these rules kind of built up to increase the likelihood of conversion, referring their friends, remaining with your brokerage, etc. So finally, social trading. So social trading kind of pulls all of this stuff together and it allows you to kind of have a platform where everything is tracked and enables you to better understand your traders and their behavior. So, and also improving virality, retention, acquisition, and your conversion rates from demo to live. So in terms of increasing virality, social trading is inherently social. It's very shareable by its nature. As a trader, if you're using a social trading platform, it gets better the more people that you have. If you think about Facebook wouldn't be that good if you were the only person on it. It's good because you've built this network. So there's an inherent value to traders for them to invite their friends, which means that instead of having to dangle a carrot in front of traders saying, we'll give you $500 for inviting a friend, or paying high IB affiliate fees, you kind of tap into the networks of your existing traders to get them to invite the people that they know that would be interested. Combined with things like gamification, rewarding traders for inviting their friends with social status, as well as using kind of behavioral insights to increase the likelihood of traders inviting their friends, this has a huge impact on improving your acquisition and increasing virality. In terms of retention, going back to the Facebook example, if anyone who has ever tried to close their Facebook account, you'll know that it's really difficult. Not necessarily because Facebook make it the process difficult, but because you're not just deleting your Facebook account. You're cutting ties with friends. You're deleting photos. You're almost literally deleting memories. And because of that, there's a real stickiness to Facebook that keeps, like Facebook don't have a retention problem. And it's because they've built this ecosystem, this social ecosystem that makes the people want to stay with them. Now let's compare that to the situation with most brokerages today. So there's an increasing retention problem within the industry. It's getting harder and harder to retain traders. The reason for this is because it's quite inconsequential to change brokers. While things like spreads and the specific things offered by the brokers will vary broker to broker, ultimately you can probably do most things that are important with most brokers in your region. And combined with the fact that most brokers are offering large welcome bonuses, it's making it increasingly easy for traders to move brokers whenever anything goes wrong. And so if brokers can if you use the social trading model, so social trading is very similar to kind of the Facebook style model, because now instead of just changing brokers, if you stop using social trading, you're cutting ties with other traders that you might have built a relationship with over time, people that you might have learned how to trade from. So you're kind of bonded to the brokerage through those social ties, as well as the fact that the social trading platform is probably something that the traders will really like. This improves retention within the platform. So that's social trading makes it really much easier from that perspective to improve your retention rates. And then finally, social trading kind of pulls all this stuff we've talked about so far, things like big data and marketing automation, kind of pulls it all into one place, because so social trading, like platforms like TradeSocio, everything is tracked. Every interaction the traders make can be used by you, the broker, to trigger different marketing messages. It can be visualized in analytics reports so that you can better understand who those traders are. And then you can turn all of this so you convert this into really actionable insights for your marketing. But then you can also use it to build up these automation sequences so that over time, the way in which you communicate with your traders becomes more personalized, more consistent, less prone to human error, and a lot more effective, because you move away from this kind of shotgun approach to marketing where you're sending the same thing to everyone, to a sniper approach where you're sending the right message, a very specific message to each individual traders. So before I finish my talk, I want to leave you with a quote from Bill Gates, which is, "The best way to put distance between you and the crowd is to do an outstanding job with information. How you gather, manage, and use information will determine whether you win or lose." Thank you.